Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Drifter. That's the guy you can see on screen right now, and as always I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment and everything else. So let's get right into the video. What we're going to talk about today is going to be a run and gun kind of character. We're going to talk about a rifleman, to be more precise. And to be even more precise, I wanted to take a look at something pretty interesting in the latest patch notes that didn't really get a lot of mention, you know, just because we had the pits expedition being added to the game, and in terms of weapons and builds and everything, the most prominent thing obviously were automatic melee weapons and all their changes, which we were looking at a little bit into in the last video, but finish them off. All right there. But yeah, what we're going to take a look at today is a little bit of a change that came to the lever action rifle. Now, to be completely fair here, I don't really know exactly what was the case with the lever action rifle and its hasty receivers before the patch. I most likely have used it before, but I can't really tell. I never really got the idea that something was wrong, to be honest. But what Bethesda said is that they were fixing modifications to the weapons fire rate. So what we're talking about here, most likely, and I'm pretty sure about that, is stuff like the hasty receiver or the tuned receiver. We are using the tuned receiver in this video, but I'm going to explain in more detail further on why that is. And yeah, basically something was wrong with these modifications that are set to increase the fire rate of the weapon. And yeah, once that was clear, I'm definitely a fan of something like this. For some of you, you probably know about my kind of like addiction to using, of course it is a cloaked enemy, like, yeah, let's hope we survive this here. Obviously, this is kind of worst case for our character. Let's just hope we can cripple one of the legs here. Luckily, this is a Assault Dominator, which has a lot of melee focus, so he has to get out of this cloaking every now and then, and yeah. I mean, kind of irrelevant at this point because we already finished him off somewhat, but as you can imagine, for a vats-based character, this was kind of a bad start. But even then, we managed to do relatively well here. Other than my free aiming skills. Let's just kill off these raiders here real quick. And yeah, back to the topic. I'm a big fan of increasing fire rate on weapons like the hunting rifle or something like that. Western revolvers and 44 revolvers are a good contender for something like this as well. And yeah, when it comes to the lever action rifle, I never really made a video about it in the past, for the simple reason that the lever action rifle, in my opinion, has always been kind of one of the better rifleman weapons, just because it always had a pretty decent mix between fire rate and, let's see, I hope we're not getting, yeah, that was not worth it. 5 strip for like 30 pounds probably. Yeah. Anyways, the weapon always had a pretty good damage compared to fire rate, but that was for stealth. When it comes to run and gun kind of character, it has been a little bit hard in the past just because we're just not firing and especially reloading fast enough. And mentioning reloads, this is probably even more interesting than the fire rate of the weapon, because you're spending a lot of time reloading when using a lever action rifle, unless you're using the quad version, but that's a completely different build at that point. And one thing that a lot of people tend to not really know about or tend to forget about is how stuff like AT or tuned receivers not only increase the fire rate of a weapon, but they have a bit of a hidden effect which is never really mentioned in their description, which is that they also increase the fire rate in a lot of cases. I mean, it's definitely possible that there are some versions of these kind of receivers out there that don't do that, but I can't really tell. I never really seen one, to be honest. So I'm fairly certain to say that all of them do also increase your reload speed. And yeah, on this occasion we actually have 3 different reload speed increases in our build. First one being a legendary effect on the weapon, faster reload speed. Then, as I just mentioned, we have a tuned receiver, which carries extra reload speed with it. And on top of that, we have ground pounder. Not really the most interesting thing, just because it's pretty much in every single build, but still, yeah. Overall, let's just fire all 5 shots. I mean, you've probably seen it before, but just so you can see how fast we are reloading here. What is that, like 1.5 seconds or something? And this combined with more fire rate, just like straight up more fire rate, makes the weapon really fun to use in my opinion. Like, this turned out to be one of my favorite rifleman characters in a long while. Obviously you can still just use what I'm saying in this video here to make a stealth character, and at this point it's probably going to be pretty powerful, to be honest. There's a good chance that after the video I'm trying that out. But yeah, I really wanted to take this new fire rate and everything in order to make this a run-and-gun kind of character, that space, as you see so far, and I had a ton of fun. It really doesn't lag in any situation. I mean, obviously if you're fighting stuff like a Sheep Squatch or a Mega Sloth, which is more tanky, it can be a little bit tedious, but as you've seen with the Scorched Beast, even then, even with tankier enemies, it's not like we're really wasting time or anything. Another big thing is this build is very ammo efficient, especially with expeditions and daily ops. You can farm ammunition very well. Like, you often get like 16 to 20 shots of .45 ammo, and you use like 3 or 4 shots to bring enemies down. So really, your overall ammo will go up over time, I'm pretty sure. Even with contextual ammo, you can go pretty much out of a fight plus minus 0. Like, it's really ammo efficient. I really like the build. You can obviously do a lot of different things in order to actually get more out of the build. Talking about making a bit more vats efficient. We do have room for a few, quality of life perks in this build, which you could get rid of. You will see that later. But overall, I had a lot of fun. It doesn't lack in damage. I felt very useful at events. There wasn't a real situation where I felt I was lagging, basically. You're not super tanky, but survivability is actually pretty good with this build. You're constantly on the move. You often don't get damaged at all. You can jump around, which, when you're using VATS, is definitely an option. I mean, for some people it will be an option even if you're not using VATS, but for me it's not. So yeah, overall very flexible build. I didn't really feel like there's any content in the game I couldn't engage with. And the last thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about, and this is probably the most interesting thing about it, so far we haven't really talked about what this changes to fire rate meant in specific. And yeah, to talk about that, I have to clarify real quick what kind of legendary effects we're using here. And the weapon is an Executioner's best hit chance, faster reload version of the weapon. Now, my first intention when I heard about the change was to really go out of my way to make a extremely ludicrously fast and fast reloading weapon. So my obvious thing was to use a faster fire rate, faster reload version of the weapon. I jumped on a custom world, crafted it, and after a little bit of testing I found out something pretty interesting, which is the faster fire rate legendary effect definitely works on the weapon. So if you have something like a bloody faster fire rate version of the weapon, you can definitely make great use out of that and increase your DPS on that occasion. But if you really want to max out the fire rate of the weapon, then you want to have something better as a secondary effect, because the faster fire rate effect gets kind of useless for the simple reason that even if you have faster fire rate and a hasty receiver on the weapon, you won't get over the numerical value of, let's just hope we're not getting over encumbered here. You're not getting over the numerical value of fire rate 7. So overall, the numerical values of fire rates don't really tell us a whole lot. They're a little bit unintuitive in my opinion. I at least can't really make out something of them, and oftentimes they are misleading. And therefore, yeah, I just straight up tested different versions of the weapons. And what I found out is that all you need to do in order to max out your fire rate on the weapon is use a tuned receiver or a headsy receiver. There are, I think, 1 or 2 other receivers that do increase your fire rate, but usually the way it goes is that the hasty receiver does give you the most benefit, and then there's stuff like the tuned receiver, which gives you a little bit less fire rate increase but a little bit more damage. It's the one I went for here because since the values are so low, you're not jumping far. Like the standard fire rate on a lever action rifle with a hardened receiver and no legendary effect is 5, I think. Then with faster fire rate, you jump to a fire rate of 6. And with any of the receivers I just mentioned, you immediately go to fire rate of 7. And it didn't really feel like there is a difference between different versions of fire rate 7. Now, if this all sounds a little bit confusing, I'm really sorry. I actually, first of all, this is like the 3rd version of the video I'm making due to crashes and unintentional video calls and stuff like that. But yeah, I really thought about how I want to make this point across, and I really hope you understand what I'm talking about here. But yeah, I decided to go with a tuned receiver in order to get this tier fire rate. The faster reload effect did seem to still have a benefit, even though we were stacking the receivers plus the legendary effect plus grounded, so I stuck with that. And when it comes to executioners, to be honest, feel free to do whatever you like here. I know it's a little bit boring that yet again my second video in a row has an executioner's effect. I'm not that set on that here. Anti-armor would work great if you are rich enough aristocrats. You get the point. The usual contesters. Obviously bloodied is always good, but we're not doing bloody kills here. So yeah, executioners it is, just because I had this exact weapon here on my character already for quite a while now. So yeah, that's what we're using here. And after all, the executioner's effect works pretty well here. And probably, as you can already tell, by the way, yeah, we're shredding through enemies. For a rifleman character, it's actually pretty good. Obviously, it's not comparable to a full-on commando or stealth commando or something like that, but yeah, as I said, for a rifleman character, really doing pretty well here. The high amount of reloads doesn't bother me whatsoever, just because it goes so fast. I'm obviously using my crits whenever they are ready. That's another point where you could get a lot of extra damage out of your builds due to the combination of using crits and the executioner's effect. I don't really tend to think about a whole lot about how I'm using my crits, so oftentimes I'm wasting them, just like when I mentioned it. The super mutant was at like 40% health. We probably got the executioner's effect already and would have killed it with a normal shot, but I used the crit. So if you can think quick enough and actually think about when you're using your executioner's effect and when you're using your crits, you can probably get a little bit more efficient. I'm not doing it here. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say. The only thing I wanted to mention, which I failed to do on this occasion here, is one of the problems that I'm genuinely surprised that comes up pretty often nowadays. We have similar problems with automatic melee weapons, whereas fire rate, or in terms of melee weapons, swing speed, kind of depends on first and third person. So on this occasion here, in first person, we can empty a clip. I'm just hammering the button here, and as you saw there, we're going through it relatively quickly. And when we are in third person, it still seems to be faster than like if we had a hardened receiver or something, but it feels a little bit faster in first person. It's definitely noticeable. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but I'm not quite sure. I think there is a difference here. It's still pretty good though in third person, so feel free to just use it. I use it in first person here because I feel like it's a little bit faster. Anyways, that was the gameplay part of the video. I hope you enjoyed it so far. By the way, I really love the aesthetic of this character. It's relatively simple, like this cowboy kind of vibe, a little bit wastelandish. But yeah, it's a little bit of a nod to the Lonesome Drifter from New Vegas. We're not using a revolver here, but like a fancy cowboy weapon, and that's basically why I had the how's it called, the Mysterious Stranger built into the game. It's just one perk point, so feel free to use whatever you like here. I just moved it in for its flavor. It's obviously not great. Funny enough, in the last video I tried to record, he picked up a minigun at some point, which I never saw before, so that's kind of cool. Anyways, and now we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, and everything. So starting off with our mutations here. We do have a little bit of extra damage to robots. I just see from a lunchbox that I probably got at some event or something. But I think you can imagine how the build would have turned out with this 5% less damage to robots. So I don't think I have to re-record the video again. When it comes to mutations, we have Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Herbivore, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. I don't think I have to talk a lot about it here. The only thing I could mention is I've thought about using Grounded mutation, just because on this build here we are not using any energy weapons, so it would just be straight up a little bit more energy resistance, but we are good on the resistance department here, and you could definitely get away with Scaly Skin. Same story though. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to our mutations. I don't really feel like I have to say a lot about them. If you have questions, just write them in the comments. I'm a small channel, so there's a good chance I can answer you. Talking about the equipment here, a little bit more interesting. I mean, in terms of the lever action rifle, not a whole lot to say. I already talked about the legendary effects. The tuned receiver, as I said, for me was the best mix between getting the most damage from all of the receivers that also increase their fire rate to 7. And as I said, between those receivers that increase their fire rate to 7, it didn't feel like there was a difference. So yeah, that's the one I went for. The only other noteworthy thing here is, I mean, it's all line stuff, reflex sight and so on for a vats build. I went with the precise look because I didn't have enough room to build in Gunsmith into this build, and with just the aligned stock, I really shredded through the condition of this weapon very fast. Now, using the precise stock definitely changed that a whole lot, and I still feel like our VETS AP usage is not a problem whatsoever. We have really high IP refresh, so that's not an issue at all. And overall, yeah, I went for no muzzle. It would have increased our accuracy a tiny bit, like 1 or 2 points, I think I remember. But yeah, this is the one I used. In terms of skin, I went for wooden inlay, felt nice. There's other nice skins for the lever action rifle though, and yeah, that's basically it. In terms of armor, yet again, it's a little bit boring. It's pretty much the same as last time. We went for a set of Vanguard's armor with one exception, which is weightless, just because I don't yet have a left leg heavy combat armor, which is weightless. So yeah, the rest is Vanguards, and we do also have AP refresh on every single piece, which is a little bit overkill, but what can you do? It won't hurt. Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it. The Vanguard's effect, yeah, I said it last time, not necessary here, but it's pretty cool. We mostly get some chip damage here and there, some stray shots that hit us, and therefore Vanguard is pretty good. I mean, if you really want to go all out tanky, obviously overeaters and stuff, you get the point. But armor wasn't an integral part of this build here. Fun fact, for the most part, I ran this build with completely broken armor, at which point Vanguards was kind of nice, because even then I had like 250 damage and energy resistance, and that was easily enough to carry us. So, yeah, that's it. In terms of apparel, the head is a Mothman Hunter head, which is an atomic shot item. So are Piper's Road Goggles. In terms of under armor, shielded road ladders, pretty straightforward pick for a Vats character. And yeah, we do have the Trench Runner's coat, which I actually wasn't quite sure what to do with, but for this kind of drifter vibe, cowboy vibe, I felt like it was working really well. And we have a West Virginia backpack with the chemist modification, so I can carry my addiction of stimpaks that I don't want to throw away. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of equipment, unless I forgot something, but I don't think so. And that leaves us with the perks. As I try to do now, I will go over them really quickly and more or less just mention the interesting stuff. So yeah, Bandolier Blocker, I think I don't have to talk a lot about that. Blocker possibly a little bit unnecessary here. We rarely get hit by melee enemies, but if we do, it's a nice thing to have, and I had those few points left. In terms of perception, yeah, I wanted to have Ground Pounder maxed out, obviously, and I decided to go with Tank Killer and Concentrate Fire maxed out as well, so Riflemen had to go for 2 points of Rifleman each. I wanted to have relatively high endurance just because we are, as I said, not a stealth character, and I went with Adamantium Skeleton and Fireproof. Those are pretty obvious picks, and Ironclad, which a lot of people hate because it's a lot of perk investment, but yeah, feel free to do whatever you like here. Yet again, not an integral part to the build. And as a first time in like ages, I neither have Adrenaline nor Tenderizer. So yeah, I really had to force myself not to bake Tenderizer in here, but ultimately it really is one of those builds where you can live without it. So I used Charisma as a dump stat, strange in numbers. Obviously you haven't seen that in action because I wasn't on a team, but you know, it's there. For 1 perk point, there's probably nothing better you can do with Charisma. In terms of intelligence, we are at 6. What I wanted to have is First Aid and Nerd Rage. This is a combination that I use on characters that aren't like super tanky, but still aren't stealthy either. It's basically just kind of a safety net, so I can do whatever I like for the most part, and as I said, you're tanky enough, you rarely get into problems, but every now and then you get surprised by a super mutant who for once does actually use this minigun, and if something like this happens, there's a possibility he shreds through you relatively quickly. With Nerd Rage and First Aid, you get a visual indication if your health really gets into a dangerous situation. You get a little bit more tanky in that situation, and it gives you time to use a Stimpak, which then is very effective due to First Aid, and that's it. And relatively unsurprising for the kind of character we are playing here, we both have 15 in agility and luck 2. Action Boy, on top of all of our AP refresh pieces, we're definitely getting into a territory where we see diminishing returns when it comes to AP refresh, but who gives, you know? Like, I wanted to have Action Boy here. It's obviously not a bad decision for a VATS-based character, and this extremely high AP refresh makes it so we can actually use dodgy, and you probably didn't notice through the video that we ran into problems due to dodgy eating up our action points. We get a lot of extra defensiveness from dodgy without ever feeling the downside of it, to be honest. Gun Fu at max rank, which is something I rarely do. Most of the time I just use it at rank 1, but on this occasion I actually found it fun and had enough, could get off enough shots in vets that every now and then I actually get the full benefit of 3 kills in a row. Evasive, pretty much the same story as Ironclad. Do whatever you like here. I went for it. Some people see it as a waste of perk points. And through Hiker, every min-maxer's wet nightmare. Yeah, live with it. There's through Hiker here. Yeah, seeing stuff like Through Hiker, Gunfu maxed out and evasive, but not adrenaline is probably making a few people cry, but feel free to do whatever you like here. After all, the point was mostly to get to talk about the fire rate of the weapon. And Through Hiker actually has one benefit that I actually use it for, which is something I haven't really used in the video, but I carry a lot of ballistic bock with me, which works relatively well as a buff on this character and kind of fits the theme of the character as some kind of beer drinking cowboy. That's it. Then we go over to luck, and we do have Bloody Mess here, Grim Reaper Sprint, Better Criticals, Mysterious Stranger at rank 1, Starch Jeans, and Critical Savvy. So yeah, Critical Savvy and Better Criticals, this is like the standard combination that you should always have, in my opinion, when it comes to a VATS character, as is Grim Reaper Sprint, with some exceptions. On this occasion, Grim Reaper Sprint we could probably live without, just because we have such high action points. Refresh, but I still felt a difference. I actually tried without it and used Class Streak instead, but yeah, I felt definitely better with Grim Reaper Sprint. Bloody Mass, yeah, it's not a great return, it's not a whole lot of damage here, but since we are already missing out on quite a bit of damage due to our receiver, it couldn't hurt here, and there was nothing desperately necessary otherwise. Starch Jeans, this is kind of obvious. And Mysterious Stranger, I kind of talked about it a little bit during the video, but yeah. It's one perk point, there's hardly anything here that can make or break the character, so I went for a little bit of flavor that is a little bit of a knockback to what my character is actually inspired by, which is the Lonesome Drifter from Fallout New Vegas. And if you understand that reference, you do you, great, thanks. But if you don't, the video will probably get a little bit long if I explain it. And that's it when it comes to our standard perks. Now, only thing left is our legendary perks. And here you will see pretty much nothing out of the ordinary. We do have legendary luck, agility, strength, and intelligence, all basically used in order to give us access to more perk points, perks to spend. Agility and luck both are used to go a little bit over 15, I think, but not terribly far. We can take a quick look at stats, but yeah, doesn't really matter too much. Mostly they are here to give us access to more perks to use. And then I do have a perk that I rarely use, which is Far-Flung Fireworks, just for a little bit of extra flavor here and there. Treated similarly to Mysterious Stranger. It will hardly increase your overall DPS in any noteworthy way. It's just a fun little extra that happens every now and then, which, yeah, is there for fun. And what rats is, you know, the lazy Fallout 76 gamers perk of choice. You can definitely live without it. If you feel like you're constantly playing in a team, obviously something like taking one for the team would be better here, but I think you can imagine that. And yeah, that was it. That was the Drifter. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I was able to make the video a little bit shorter yet again, so maybe half an hour should be our new target. Let me know if that's better, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.